the right things. Keep your keep your keep your affairs in order, and be grateful. And I have to say this, as I'm listening to you, I was feeling the pain, the challenges that you had to go through to have come from a successful business. And then here comes the pandemic. And it's not only you have to think about, you have to think of other people's lives. And then you have to make this decision to get rid of something that you love so much, something that you built from the ground up. And then you had to make that decision. One of the other important things, and I'll open up the floor, say this and then open up the floor, is that you were part of two things. One, you were part of groups. And within those groups, you're able to get some kind of a support, whether it's in experience, knowledge, whatever the case might be. But more importantly is that you had access to someone like Dr. Dorga, who has the knowledge of teaching people about business and building business. And I can't say enough how fortunate we all are as a community to have this amazing collective of knowledge and skills and experience. You know, I am in the process now of developing a library of resources, an ecosystem, so to speak, with like-minded people. And I am grateful for this presentation. So I'm going to open up the floor to others. Vishnu, feel free to jump in and, you know, let's have some questions and have some discussions.
Yep, no, fantastic presentation. And I think when you were speaking about the other organization, it's, I know which one, I think I know which one you're referring to. And, you know, I've been in those organizations for a long time as well. I think this next year is going to be 20 years now that I've been in various chambers of commerce and so. And it's also something that we have to address to make them better so that they can also help members when members are under pressure. Just for you as well and anybody else, what we did at the beginning of the pandemic is set up a support group, no cost to everyone, free advice. I don't know if you saw it or you didn't see it. I was just going through the group to see if you are in there.
Yeah, I think they sent, I think if, I know you know the organization I'm talking about. A questionnaire or something was sent, and I filled it out when they were asking, how are you doing, or something like that was sent. I remember filling something out. But for me, I think the group is too big. It needs to, like, you put somebody in charge of all the small businesses and stuff like that. Because for me personally, I was hurt. I'm not gonna lie, I was hurt, right? I was hurt because it's a group that, of course, I don't say a lot in, but I enjoyed. I call the big ones eagles. Like I would say eagle. I enjoy looking at the eagles and listen to the conversations, and it's inspiring. Like, this is what I want to be, or this is where I want to be and stuff. And then to know, okay, so you're wounded as a little bird and you're calling on the eagles like help, and it just went on deaf ear, right? So for that point, I was really, really hurt. But like I said, maybe if it can break it up into small groups or section them to some point, and so you're in charge of this group, you reach out to that set, see how they're doing. Even if it was just a simple how are you doing, would have meant so much. You know, not necessarily that you needed any particular resource, but just show members that we care. We may not be able to help everybody because they were doing relief and stuff like that for other persons, which is commendable. But what happens to the persons that are right under your roof? What about, you know? So they did start the initiative, but I don't know what happened.
That's good to know. It's really good to know, and I would encourage you as well to say this, because I'll utilize the information to see what positive change I can make. You will have to let me know if I have permission to use your name, but if not, I would also encourage you to
no problem, no problem, no problem.
And what I would also say, maybe a question that I had for you is, what do you see for your own business and your own future, let's say even a year ahead? Now, you know, getting a little bit more clarity about what COVID is and how we have to live with it. What do you see for yourself?
What I see is that I definitely will need to move in terms or find another building. where I have more space, because what worked then is surely not working now. And when you're looking at the guidelines to follow, especially for schools, it's so strict that it's not economical. Like for one classroom, if you follow the guidelines, you would end up with like 9 students to 1 teacher. And that does not make any sense, right? So I need to do that. And I want to introduce options. So if you're not comfortable with your child coming to the classroom, we have the physical teaching, but at the same time, we're gonna live stream it. So they can be home and they can learn from it. Vice versa, even if the one that came physically is absent, they would not miss anything because they can tap into the device at any time. The only big problem for me is the quality of internet. It doesn't matter who you go to, the quality of internet messes everything up. That's the only thing, but definitely I would need to expand because of the space that you need to keep between students and see how, well, I've started already, because what I had to do was put a little tip of increase on my prices to accommodate the missing person. So for instance, I have benches, not single file, and usually have 2 persons there. Now I can't get 2 persons in a bench. So therefore I had to increase my price for that 1 student that's going to sit there. And that helped me a lot. So when I calculated it, I'm just missing like about quarter of what I would have made. And 2, you can't just, well, persons on the call who might benefit. You can't just jump and increase price, especially because you know, all right, it's cutting back. You got to show people what they are paying for, right? So you can't just go and increase and it's like, no, right? So for me, my first set off is AC. You come to AC school. So that's the first thing. You know how fun is AC. That's number 1, right? But things started officially now. I have somebody at the door. Myself, I do it most mornings. I go there, I check your temperature, I log you in. Parents like that, especially when they see you're the owner of the business and you're so caring that you can show up I show up before my staff, even up to this morning. And I collect the students. I'm opening the school, recording their temperature and stuff like that. So you can't just jump price, but you got to show people what they're paying for. I had to give more in terms of work, be more flexible. Look, all right, since Johnny was absent Tuesday, guess what? We're opening Saturdays too. So Johnny can come on Saturdays and catch it back with his work. They love that. You understand? So that's something else I'm looking to continue, right? But like I said, I had to humble myself, take myself out of the whole mental state and start strategizing. Look, if you want to keep this business open, you got to think, and you got to think real fast, pull all the resources that you learned, and this is where you need to apply it. So for me, even though it was a challenge, I believe it was a test. So for that reason, moving forward, I already know what I have to do. I got to get a bigger space, and well, I've already increased the price, but I can't go too much overboard and stuff like that. So yeah, for the future, that's definitely it. That's definitely it. Bigger space.
I want to bring in Evie on this. Evie, good evening. Evie owns several businesses. One is a cafe, Java Cafe, for those of you who don't know. And I'm curious, Evie, how did the pandemic affect you? And what were some changes you had to make, some sacrifices you had to make?
Good evening, Owen. Well, the restaurant industry, anything service-based and in hospitality took a major hit. We were closed at 2 locations for quite a few months. And only the Duncan Street location was allowed open, but only for delivery and pickup. So that reduced our daily ticket sales quite significantly. Also, same situation with employees. They were reduced hours. We tried as far as possible to keep everybody on, but with reduced hours. But what we did, because we are also a digital marketing company, is that we really pushed the online ordering platform and just pivoted to encourage sales online so that customers can order online, have their orders fulfilled. We worked with delivery riders to ensure that the product was safe. So we had to change our packaging, our presentation, and all these different things we had to adjust to the new normal. So thankfully, within a couple of months, we were able to open back the Giftland location. Of course, there are a lot of changes, increased overheads, and just a new normal and way of doing business. But I think, like Anika is saying, people are appreciative of us going the extra mile and really adjusting to make them feel safe, and they appreciate that, especially in the food industry. So we just completed the first dine-in restaurant week since the pandemic, and we were able to maintain that standard of safety, and we had a good restaurant week. You know, it was a bit nervous and nerve-wracking going into it because we weren't sure we would be able to control just the amount of people wanting to come and dine and maintain safety precautions. But it really calls for a partnership with your business and your customers. There needs to be an understanding that this is what has to happen for us to serve you and for you to enjoy our product and service. It's not an imposition. It's for your safety as well as ours, because if we don't uphold that, TAG was very serious. They would shut you down and kick you out of the restaurant week. So it calls for a lot of understanding and I guess a commitment to safety and a commitment to continuity, because I don't want to go into business and there are customers that although we might not seem important to everyone, but their customers who depend on their coffee. So adjustments have to be made. Pivoting is important, but there was that period that it was very difficult. It was strenuous all around, mentally, financially, emotionally. Everything was it was a strange time. I'll just put it that way.
And thank you, Evie. Roshad, welcome. Roshad is not honorary. Roshad is one of our contributors. And Roshad, you're in a different kind of service industry. You're into security. How would you say, how did the pandemic affect you? And what are some changes, drastic changes, perhaps you had to make to survive? And how, well, answer that.
Alrighty. First, I'd like to say thanks so much for having me as part of this meeting. It's quite an honor. How the pandemic affected our company is actually in a way that it was safety. Safety was impacted. Safety of our guards, because what happens, right? For we're on an 8-hour shift, right? So what happens to the guards that are working up to 11 o'clock and they need to go home? How are they going to get home? What transportation are they going to use? Buses stop at that time. They're not, especially at the early stages, they were not an essential service. There's a bit more of flex, with that right now, but in the early stage it was very difficult. So we had to ensure that call keeps coming. That we had to get home safe, that the guards had to get home safe. So we spent the resources. It was a good investment to make sure that they were okay. But now that has allowed us to enter into a system where they're able to get home on time and feel comfortable and know that we have their back. As it relates to the clients, most were very understanding. I think in the business community, or at least where security was involved, there was good understanding. There was a spike in crime. the stats will show that crime is less now, but I think we all know how stats can be presented in a very interesting way. But all in all, I think the way that I would like to look at it is the pandemic made us better. Allowed us an opportunity to create systems to better serve those our guards who serve our clients.
Thank you. I see we have Crystal Lam around, has joined us. Crystal Lam is another contributor. Crystal is into uniform manufacturing. I think she can speak more on our business than I can. But Crystal, the same question to you. How did the pandemic affect you, and what kind of changes or personal sacrifice you had to make to keep your business afloat, if any, at all? Yeah.
Hey everybody, good night.
Good night.
So I have a uniform company. We're into manufacturing of uniforms, mostly customized uniforms. And during the pandemic, I feel like one of the most important things that we had to do, or changes we had to make initially, when this all started last March, I mean, it took a major toll on the fashion and production industry because everybody was more concerned with safety. It wasn't a time where people were thinking about, oh, what am I going to wear? So all the efforts and energy was more focused on how am I going to keep safe? So one of the things that I had to do very fast, I started making masks. I think I was one of the very first persons who got into making the cloth mask. That was even when they had some controversy surrounding it with the CDC, because they were saying, oh, it's not allowed to be used and all of that. So I started doing that. And for quite a few months, that was what kept the business afloat. Because, nobody was making any outfits, any company they weren't looking at uniforms and all that, because most companies were moving towards remote transactions and all of that. So for quite a few months, we survived that way. Things are beginning to normalize again. People are going back out to work, schools are reopening and all of that. So I feel like things are making a change for the better, which is a good thing. But yeah, man, I feel like as entrepreneurs, we have to be able to adapt. This was just one of the challenges. And I feel like opportunities are often found in crisis. So we just got to be able to seek it out and adapt fast.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a quick point. I don't want this to seem as though it's I am conducting the conversation. I just want to remind you that it's open for anyone to jump in at any time to ask any questions. We have among us people who are not entrepreneurs. They might be social entrepreneurs or cultural entrepreneurs. Please feel free to join in the conversation and ask any question. Yannick is a business person. Yannick, welcome to our Zoom meet. Is there anything you would like to add to this conversation or ask Anika about her experience?
Thanks a lot, Selwyn. Well, I know Anika personally, so I'm very happy that she's been able to overcome such a huge hurdle. I know her business relied heavily on the physical presence of the children. And I can imagine some of the challenges for once she transitioned into the online schooling, dealing with the internet, especially. I know that's always a huge challenge. Happy you're back open. You have kids back in the physical presence again. So that's good. For me, the pandemic signaled, my primary business is medical supplies. So as you would imagine, the pandemic made me some money. But it was an offset, I guess. My accountant, she's doing my numbers right now. So I'll see the difference between last year and the 2 previous years since I've been in existence. But I know that although I had a spike in sales for protective equipment, there was a huge lull in sales for my regular customers. I supply the cath lab at Caribbean Heart Institute, for example, and that was shut down. They weren't doing any surgeries. So that income was gone. I supplied Woodlands Hospital a number of departments, and those departments were shut down for quite a few months. So that income was gone as well. So although there was a spike in protective stuff, there was a lull in all the other normal stuff. And in fact, I am just now rebalancing. For example, today I was out super late because a number of purchase orders just came in. So it's been interesting. It's a dance. Like literally, my analogy for dealing with COVID last year and into this year was that I had to dance. Like, and I know a lot of other business people, they had to dance. So it's definitely made me better. It's made me understand the importance of diversifying my income. So I'm looking to expand into creating a clinic space under the same brand, since I already have I can get all the equipment at really reasonable prices. So I'm actually right now looking for a couple of doctors to collaborate with and probably set up a clinic. For the entertainment side of things, most of you guys know I do Guyana Rum Festival. That was a big damper because Rum Festival was so huge last year, and we had big plans for this year. In fact, we had big plans for last year as well, and all that just went, I guess, canceled. So this year we're doing it. We're still doing it. We're doing it virtually this year. The one thing that we're gonna have physically is a brunch, which will be for vaccinated people only. We're gonna test out that model of having events for vaccinated people only. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that goes.
Thank you, Yannick. Christine, welcome.
A question before you move on for Yannick, Mr. Collins. Sorry for interrupt. So I'm hearing you saying this event for vaccinated people. Is it any particular vaccine or all vaccines, or because because I can share with you. Last week Friday, I was scheduled to leave the country. My daughter, myself, and everything. And because I didn't have the right vaccine that is acceptable in other countries, it posed a problem where I had to end up into 5 to 7 day quarantine and stuff. So would your event be this type, or is it any vaccine that they're giving out as long as you have your 2 doses? That's my question.
Yeah, exactly. So as long as you have your 2 doses, you're good to go. I know in the USA, for example, a lot of the high-end clubs and restaurants, they're doing vaccinated only. And I had some friends that were there from Guyana, because I was in the States for a while, and I had some friends that were there from Guyana, and they had Sputnik in the restaurant. They didn't want to accept them because Sputnik obviously is not recognized in the USA. They were taking AstraZeneca though. So it's interesting times. There's a lot of there's the issue of health, and then there's the issue of geopolitics that we're gonna have to dance with, especially when traveling. So I don't know. These are some very interesting times, man. I don't know. The stories for the kids and grandkids are going to be amazing.
Yeah. Christine DeCambra-For, welcome. Same question to you, or would you like me to repeat the question?
No, that's fine. Good evening, Selwyn.
Good evening.
And group. So first off, Selwyn, I must say thank you for that one-on-one invitation to my box tonight. That really pushed me to click the join button, actually, because I was on my way to one of my locations on the East Bank, and the traffic is so crazy. I just decided to turn back and just come home to get some other work done. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine, as Selwyn just said, and I'm the owner of Everything Makes Craft. So I joined just in time to hear Anika's presentation, which was amazing. Anika, good job. I wanted to touch on 4 things that she said that I really think were so important, and they resonated with me in a slightly different way. One is, of course, the pandemic. When it hit, fortunately, I was already following John Maxwell, and he spoke about finding the opportunity in crisis. And I really had to think about that. And I was like, my doors are going to be closed for about 2 months. What am I going to do? How am I going to make all this happen and keep all this standing when no customers and no kids can actually come to my door to buy my products and to come to my class? And I decided to, instead of waiting for them to come to me, like waiting to see how long this whole COVID thing would last, I decided to go out there and meet them wherever they were going to be. And as you know, we weren't allowed to open many places, with the exception of the supermarkets and a few other places. And I decided, okay, maybe I'll go where the people are, which is at the supermarkets, because people need to eat. And I approached the management of Massey stores and Massey supermarket, and they give me like a trial run with my handmade cards and stuff like that. And then after the first 2 weeks, they called me in and said, hey, would you like to have like a full-time booth here? And I was like, wow, really? And that's when it all made sense, looking for the opportunity in crisis and really working at it and just doing what is needed. And I just took a leap of faith, and now I have those 2 permanent locations to add to my other 2 locations. Second point, finances. So Anika mentioned how hard it was to actually keep all the bills afloat and everything. And I learned from Action Coach, actually, that as a business owner, you should try to have at least a few months bills paid somewhere. It should be saved. And when I heard of that concept, I was a bit befuddled because I was really not saving 2 and 3 months rent and salaries and so on. But when I was taught that by Action Coach, I decided to really try to implement it. And I can tell you, when COVID hit, I had about 3 months rent and salary set aside. And it was a lot of self-sacrifice. But I guess that's because I'm not a big spender on myself. So I really just, save the cash, basically, waiting for a next opportunity. The third thing that Anika spoke about was team. She mentioned that she has 2 persons that really carried her business. And I'll tell you that my team, I have a core team and I have an extended team. My core team, what works for us is actually sitting on the floor and talking. Like, we would sit on the floor, and I would call these drowning moments. When I tell them exactly what's happening with me, I do not put up a brave face, and I do not pretend as if I don't have problems like them. We sit on the floor and we talk about what's happening, and they actually have some really amazing ideas and advice and so to share with me. And it's amazing what we can do when we get down to one level. The fourth and last thing, she spoke about groups. This is not a big thing for me. I know it's important as a business owner to be part of groups and so on. For me, it's just too much information coming at me at once. Being part of all these groups, it sounds nice. Yeah, a lot of persons know you and so on. But for me, it's just too much information, and I would rather filter what I need and take what I need when I need it, instead of having everything come at me like, and then I don't know which direction to look, and then I lose focus. So those are some of the points I wanted to talk about and share my experiences with the rest of the group. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Christine. I want to bring in somebody who is not an entrepreneur in the traditional sense, but has been with Brand Youth for the longest while. Her name is Mosa. Mosa, when we did our 40 under 40 Entrepreneurial Awards, Mosa wrote the features I think for 3 or 4, several of our special awardees, and she did that pro bono. So I want to bring Mosa in and ask her, from her point of view, how did the pandemic affect her, and share some of her thoughts.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
In terms of what I do for a living, which is writing, I wasn't really affected that much because I work from home anyway. I've been working from home since 2011. But the way the pandemic mostly affected me was in terms of my children with like schooling and stuff like that. Adjusting to online learning has been quite a challenge. So that was a major thing for me. And of course, life generally, the new rules, having to wear a mask when you go out, social distancing and all of that. Of course, but with me, a few months ago, I made a decision that I was not going to worry anymore about COVID or what's going on, because I realized that with a lot of people, it was affecting their mental health. And when you're in a state of stress, it affects your immune system and you can get sick. So I decided that I needed to protect my mental health. And so I made a choice that, I was just going to stop worrying. Yes, I was going to follow all the guidelines and everything. If I did not need to go out, I was just going to stay at home. But I was not going to be tuned into the numbers every day and all of that, because I find that just, it puts you in a state of fear, and I don't like to live in a state of fear. So I made a lot of changes to my life in terms of my personal journey, my spiritual life, and that kind of thing. What has helped me is like meditation and doing yoga and stuff like that. So I would say that over the last few months, I've been quite fine in terms of coping with the pandemic. And hearing about your experiences with your businesses, I mean, I'm not an entrepreneur, but hearing about your experiences and stuff, it's very enlightening. It's the different challenges that people in different sectors are going through during this time. Hopefully at the end of it, we all can say that we lived through it and we're better for it. So that's all I want to say tonight.
Thank you, Mosa. We have Keon has joined us, and we have Shawnette from New York. But I'm just going to ask you guys, if you want to join in and say anything, feel free to do that before I hand it over to Vishnu to, make some, give us some lessons. Vishnu can tell you about what he does for those of you who are now joining us for the first time. Keon, if you want to say something, you or Shawnette, feel free to do that. Other than that, I will just hand this over to Vishnu.
Good evening, Selwyn, and good evening to everyone. Definitely, I think, first of all, that this initiative is really, really fantastic, allowing entrepreneurs, non-entrepreneurs to share in their experiences. And of course, we learn from each other when information like this is shared. I can understand some persons being a bit averse to too much of information being thrown in different directions, but it's always important for us to filter what we believe can work for us and what probably might be a bit more germane to what we are currently doing as individuals. Now, the pandemic brought with it its own set of challenges and opportunities. Like Yannick indicated, for the medical industry, definitely an industry that thrived through the pandemic, while others that are service-based that require that human interaction really, really took a hit. I think what it allowed us to do as individuals was to adapt more to technology, and in itself would have, in my opinion, carved out about 3 to 5 years of our advancement in using technology to not only just communicate, but also to provide a service to our client base. And it is important for us to look at the silver linings amongst all that is happening and tell ourselves, do we want to either continue moving forward or are we just going to regress? So it is important for us on the call to keep in mind that it's provided us with an opportunity for us to keep progressing, finding other ways to re-engineer our business models so that we can continuously serve our customers. I believe, in fact, it saved, I would say, hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of dollars in overhead costs for some businesses, if you look at it from that perspective. And you just found ways that you could now still serve your clients effectively and save on overhead costs. For example, trading, in particular, moving to the virtual platform. You saved on electricity from having an AC running in a room. You saved on snacks, providing snacks. Not that we don't want to, but it's just looking at the economic benefits of what the pandemic brought to the forum. And there are many other businesses that can tell you that they have thrived, even non-essential businesses that would have thrived through the pandemic. And that's simply because they re-engineered their business models to effectively serve their customers. So I would like to encourage all the entrepreneurs on the call, the prospective entrepreneurs on the call, always think about how can you continuously improve your business model to serve your clients, even post COVID, because keeping in mind, we may experience something else again in the future. So don't allow it to catch you with your pants down. You want to make sure that you're always a step ahead. And those are my few cents to the conversation.
Thank you, Keon. Vishnu, you want to take us out?
Yep. So lots of good lessons. I think what really stood out to me is that a crisis really brings out what happens within us. I would usually ask people, if you squeeze an orange, what kind of juice you're gonna get out of it? And obviously the answer is orange juice, unless any one of you knows differently. So what I think is that the crisis brings out, the juice that's in us. When we get squeezed, whatever was in us, even if it was, we were able to hide it superficially. We were orange looking like an apple. When we get squeezed, orange juice is gonna come out. So I'm very happy to hear about the stories tonight of the team here really showing what they're made of, because at the moment we're hearing from companies that have survived. There have been companies who haven't made it. And I think very early on in the pandemic as well, what we always teach and what we use for ourselves as well is that business growth is almost like, one of these old type of, Selwyn would know, and Selwyn and I would know, these old volume knobs that you turn on, the big ones you had to turn on. It was like the biggest button on those old CD sets, well, not CD sets, like old tape sets. You can turn it on. So what we teach is that whenever you want more clients, just turn up the volume. And so we use that for ourselves. We use it for all our clients. And because worrying takes energy. We have to wake up in the morning. We have to, the food we bought and put in the fridge, we have to cut it up and fry it and cook it and everything else and eat it. And then our body, this magic machine we have here, converts that into energy that we then get to choose. Do we put it in a negative direction? Do we go into a negative spiral, or do we take this energy and do something positive with it? We can do both, right? It's very hard to be sad and down and also do the work. It doesn't really work. So I've learned a long time ago that this energy, the money that we invested in food, one way of not wasting the food we eat is using the energy that food produces in a very positive manner. So I think Keon saw this firsthand up close, where we just immediately started to turn up that volume and putting it as positively as we could. And as Keon mentioned, many of the clients did well. Some of them doubled their businesses, and they're not even essential businesses, motor spares, all the like. The clients that were most affected were travel and tourism. Travel and tourism really, really suffered. But however, with that same philosophy, one of them, when things were going normal before before COVID, always complained about not having time to become IATA certified. So he paid another travel agent to use their IATA certification. Well, now you have all the time in the world. What do you need to do now? Get IATA certified. So he took 6 months. He's now IATA certified. As he's coming out of it, he'll come out much stronger. Another one always wanted to have her master's in tourism because now she's known as one of the biggest names in tourism in Guyana, but she didn't have the academic qualifications to back it up. And it's still a reality that in our society, people still want to see, well, what's your qualification or what do you come with? You know, it's the reason I type in DR in front of my name. It took 4 years to do it, but when I have to talk to the ministers and all the other people, they're a bit quieter, right? They don't argue that much with me. So that's the reason it's always in front there. It just makes my life so much easier. So it was worth those 4 years. Now, same thing with her. She's now, I think, September, she'll have her master's in tourism. And there's nobody else who has that level of education now from that specific school that she ended up going to in the US, in the country. So she could have also, those two people, I'm just using those two as examples, could have actually been the type of people who could have pulled out their hair, looked like me, and decide, well, you know, never again in this industry. But what they did is they took their food, turned it into energy, and used that energy wisely. And now they have results that they can stand on for a long period of time. And everyone who made these investments now is so far ahead. You know, Anika is a good example. Evie is a good example. Crystal, I follow her as well. Good examples. Christine as well. Very good examples of being so far ahead of your competition who just throw their hands up in the air and did nearly nothing. And you know, I would like to commend you for that, but also make sure that you pay it forward. And we did have the discussion a little bit about the groups we belong to and not belong to. I have a Google sheet with all the groups that I belong to. I don't count WhatsApp groups because that's over 400 actual, you know, organizations that I belong to. And every single one of them has a purpose where I either contribute, I gain from, but I'm very specific about the purpose. The day when I can't see the purpose anywhere, I can't contribute, they can't contribute to me, there's no growth on either side, that's the day when I end that relationship. But that hardly ever happens, because if you look carefully, there may be one person in that organization of 450 that makes it worth it. So don't look at the 449 that don't make it worth it. Look for the one. And if you find that one, that's good enough, right? That's good enough. And these were some of the thoughts I wanted to leave with the team here this evening. You guys have done really well. Guyana is just on the cusp of what's going to happen. Every single day I have these meetings. I can see it in our own businesses as well. The rate at which we are growing at, it's, you know, without COVID, without all this that's happening, I don't think we would have been able to do this. But it's going to happen for all our businesses. Some of us are a little bit closer to the fire, so we can feel the heat much faster. Some of us are a little bit farther away, right? So you'll have direct, indirect, and induced. If I look around the room here, other than Rashad, for example, Rashad is direct. We are direct. There are a lot of us who are indirect. You might be working with the direct companies, and then induced, the amount of money that will flow into the hands of this government and these different organizations, it's more than the money that Rashad and I can make and spend back in the economy. So we also have to pay attention, where is that money going to be invested, and can we align our businesses? COVID should have also taught you, if you really want to be in the business that you're in. I think really should have made you given some thought, do I really want to be doing this? And it would have tested and it would have told you, yes, you want to, or no, diversify, do something else, right? So I think COVID came at the right time to make us be able to step up our game, because I could have never thought I would have been driving around, walking around Guyana with people with masks on their faces. I've met so many people in the past year, and I was guessing what the bottom half of their face looked like. And in some cases, when I train them and snacks are served now, and I see them take off their mask, I'm shocked every time, because I'm so often wrong that the bottom half of their face that I was imagining doesn't match the top half that I was seeing, right? So that's like a game I've been playing for the past couple of months. You know, how close am I to accuracy? And I'm wrong all the time. I think, how could your face look like that when the top looks like this? I'm sure that they were having the same reaction to me as well. right? So I just wanted to share that it's been I think it's been a beautiful experience. The thing that I miss the most, Selwyn, and you would know this a little bit, is not having seen my grandmom in person for over a year. That's the thing that bothers me
it's
most.
been that long? It's
Yeah.
been that long? Wow.
I took her over just before the lockdown started, so that actually bothers me the most. And I do my best to support her from here, but I think that's the thing that bothers me the most. But other than that, we use it to the best of our ability, and I found creative ways to support her now, so that when I do support her and she calls me and she tells me, "How did you do that? Why did that?" It still makes me feel good, but it doesn't really compensate for being able to be near her. Thank you.
Well, Vishnu, thank you. Yes, I'm on. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We are growing and we are getting there. We have the conversation has been very fruitful. We learn a lot every week. We have every time we have a meeting, we have an opportunity to learn and to share. And as I said, the objective is that one day we're able to collaborate more with each other. We're able to generate ideas. What has happened since Brand Youth, the inception of Brand Youth, is that people who had not known each other before the awards are now collaborating with each other, sharing with each other. And this is important. The other day, I'm just going to say this here. Roshad said something to me that was it blew my mind. And he said, Selwyn, Brand Youth is a new language for Guyana. And I said, what did you just say? He said, a new language for Guyana. And he broke it down by saying the young people, like children, learn the language faster. And then the older folks take a time to learn. And I really, the metaphor, the analogy touched me because I never looked at it that way. And what I got away from that is that this is what Brand Youth is about. It is not one person coming up with all the ideas. Brand Youth is about creating space for people to generate ideas and share in those ideas. And hopefully, we'll be able to inspire others and create better communities and make a better country. But Roshad, I got to thank you for that, right? I got off the phone and all I was thinking, wow, a language. I never thought of that. So thank you, everyone. And until next week, right? Yeah. Anika, are we going to come again next week?
Most definitely. As long as it's not Tuesday, I'll be there.
No, I shifted because of you and Keon. I just want you guys to know that. I shifted to Wednesday until
We're very serious with our Toastmasters.
Yeah. We don't want to be toasted by any of you. So I shifted to Wednesday, and Vishnu is always quite accommodating. So hopefully somebody else comes up next Wednesday, maybe Evie this time. I don't know. I'm just asking. Or Christine might come up with a topic to present, and let's have a conversation around it. So thank you, guys.